Hi, it's Sam.
And Tasfiri.
We are announcing that the Speak Your Truth event with Palenke Arts is happening soon. Come check it out. It's at 1713 Broadway Avenue in Seaside at Palenke Arts. We're so excited to have our guest speakers. We're excited to see the community come out and look at this view of the ocean, y'all.
My name is Summerhill. I'm going to host for this evening. I am on the board of directors for Palenke Arts, which is where you are at right now, which puts on amazing events, which does educational arts programming, which does outward-facing events, which hosts multicultural concerts, and all the other things too. I'm the Poet Laureate of Monterey County, the first poet. I didn't share that for applause, but thank you. I actually just shared it. I shared it just to say that it allows me to be in spaces like this, to host events like this, to get to rap with folks and be in community, and that's one of the biggest things that I admire about the position. And so, in such, tonight we have an open mic, Speak Your Truth. Give it up for being here, for coming through on this beautiful first, few days of summer, or summer weather. Summer hasn't started till 21st, right? 21st?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still beautiful nonetheless, feels like summer. So thank y'all for coming through. The first portion of this evening is going to be an open mic, and as I mentioned a few minutes ago, there's an open mic sign-up list, which Mr. Vida Sanchez, Executive Director of Palenke Arts, is holding. If you would like to sign up and you have not done so, feel free to put your name on that list, and we'll go in that order. Later on, we do have a special feature for you, the Poetic Activist. She's going to rock out in just a bit, but first there's going to be some open micers. I'm going to share a poem. Before I do so, I want to state that Palenke Arts sits on the indigenous homeland of the Esalen people, and it's important that we acknowledge that, and that we also are careful visitors and good stewards while we're here. It's also important that we use both our mouths and our feet. One of the good homies says we pray with our feet, and also with the way we move throughout the world. And then with that being said, you can also donate to the Esalen folks by going to eslentribe.org and actually paying a land tax or donating to their cause, because the words, the rhetoric without actual action means nothing. So feel free to go on to eslentribe.org/donate. Silence your cell phones. Thank you. And then also, while you're doing so, I want y'all to make sure that for tonight, that we're small but we're mighty. And so I would love for y'all to give all of your energy, your applause, your attention to the folks that have come up on this stage, because it is no small thing to share your words with strangers, essentially. And also lean into the dream side of your mind as you hear the words. I'm going to read a poem that's not mine. Perhaps I'll read something of my own in just a bit, but I'm going to open it up with a poem by Aracelis Gamay called The Black Maria, and it's a rather long poem, so bear with me. The Black Maria. After Neil deGrasse Tyson, black astrophysicist and director of the Hayden Planetarium, born in 1958, New York City. In his youth, deGrasse Tyson was confronted by the police on more than one occasion when he was on his way to study stars. I've known that I wanted to do astrophysics since I was 9 years old, a first visit to the Hayden Planetarium. So I got to see how the world around me reacted to my expression of these ambitions. And all I can say is the fact that I wanted to be a scientist, an astrophysicist, was, hands down, the path of most resistance. Anytime I expressed this interest, teachers would say, "Don't you want to be an athlete?" Or, "Don't you want to?" I wanted to become something that was outside of the paradigms of expectation of the people in power. And I look behind me and say, well, where are the others who might have been this? And they're not here. And I wonder, what is the thing along the tracks that happened to survive and others did not, simply because of the forces that prevented it? At every turn. Neil deGrasse Tyson, The Center for Inquiry, 2007. That was an epigraph, by the way, not even a poem yet. Here's the poem. Body of space, body of dark, body of light. The Sky View Apartments, circa 1973. A boy is kneeling on the rooftop. A boy who, it is important to mention here, his skin is brown, prepares his telescope, the weights and rods to better see the moon. His neighbor, it is important to mention here that she is white, calls the police because she suspects the brown boy of something. She does not know what at first, then turns, with her looking his telescope into a gun, his duffel into a bag of objects, thieved from the neighbors' houses, maybe even hers. And the police, it is important to mention that statistically speaking, they are also white, arrive to find the boy who has been turned by now into the suspect on the roof with a long black lens, which is, in the neighbor's mind, a weapon. And depending on who you are reading this, you know that the boy is in grave danger. And you might have known somewhere quiet in your gut, you might have worried for him in the white space between lines 5 and 6, or maybe earlier. And you might be holding your breath for him right now, because you know this story. It's a true story, though miraculously, in this version of the story, anyway, the boy on the roof of the Sky View lives to tell the police that he is studying the night and moon, and lives long enough to offer them, the cops, a view through his long telescope's black eye, which, if I'm spelling it out anyway, is the instrument he borrowed and the beautiful trouble he went through lugging it up to the roof to better see the leopard body of space speckled with stars, and the moon far off, much further than, since I'm spelling the thing out, the distance between the white neighbor who cannot see the boy, who is her neighbor, who in fact is much nearer to her than to the moon. The boy who wants to understand the large and gloriously unhuman mysteries of the galaxy. The boy who, despite America, has not been killed by the murderous jury of his neighbor's imagination and wound. This poem wants only the moon in its hair, and the boy on the roof. This boy on the roof of this poem with a moon in his heart. Inside my own body, as I write this poem, my body is making a boy, even as the radio calls out the Missouri coroner's news, the Ohio coroner's news, 2015. My boy will nod for his milk and close his mouth around the black eye of my nipple. We will survive. How did it happen? The boy, the cops, my body in this poem, my milk pulling down into droplets of light as the baby drinks and drinks them down into the body that is his own. See it splayed and sign as a star in my arms. Maybe he will be the boy who studies stars. Maybe he will be, say it, the boy on the coroner's table, splayed and spangled by an officer's lead, as if he, too, weren't made of a trillion glorious cells and sentences, trying to last. Leadless, remember the body's beginning, splendored with breaths, turned by time into at least this song. The moment made in the mackerel soul, caught flashing inside the brief moment of the body's net, then whoosh, back into the sea of space. The poem, dreams of bodies, always leadless, bearing only things ordinary as water and light. We're going to bring up our first open micer, and I want, again, y'all to remember we're giving all our energy because poetry is a bodily art form that requires participation from the body. So as y'all hear something, feel free to make noise. You can applaud, you can snap, you can clap, you can throw money, you can do all of those things, and it'll be, yup, throw the money, yup, it'll be all good. Yup, there you go, thank you, Boris. All right, so coming up to the microphone first to kick us off is Amanda Chaffin. Chaffin. Come on up.
One, seeds are poems from the earth, full of flowery abundance and fruitful possibilities. And then, actually an earlier one, but I'm putting it here. I want to start a plant fire, seeding, growing out of control, a fire with no flames, heatless, just a wildfire, spread of new seeds, new hopes, new realities, seeds crossing borders, combusting into new life, to help with GMOs. And now I'm going to read a border poem. Border walls, artificial boundaries, seed planted here and there, roots stretching beneath any border wall, butterfly wings flying over any border wall, art unfolding tendrils, reaching out over, under, covering the wall, with flowers, birds nesting, butterflies, hatching caterpillars, plant seeds, landing in crevices to grow, tender roots cracking through, opening, a way to thrive there upon a wall, passion flower winding over concertina wire, rivers brushing beneath, pushing rock cement aside as waters carve a way through, big trees rooting there and cracking open the rigidity erected by impotent men against the feral, fertile force of la naturaleza, madre de todo, la fuerza de la matriz, womb power of life herself.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Amanda. All right, let's keep it going and bring on up our next open micer, which is Vida Sanchez.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here. When people speak of revolution, many think of demonstrators and protests, and I think of poets and musicians and artists in spaces like these that aren't, it's not millions, it's happens in the silence of our hearts and our brains and sharing with others in community. So thank you for being here, this is huge. I'd like to start with a poem from a friend named Celadon up in the Bay in Oakland. And it's dedicated to my partner of 2 years, Ilana. It's called The Cheek. Let's go. We're supposed to be out the door 5 minutes ago. Won't you pull me in close for one more? The cheek. It calls for a kiss. It calls me. It tempts it requests, it persuades. The cheek, it persuades me. It traces rivers around my ears, whispers, reassures, says to me, you are worthy. You are capable. The cheek rests upon the thigh, the fatty tenderness, thigh, cheek, higher. There is nothing more sweet, except perhaps the bubbling of the cheek, the rumbling, bumbling, splendouring, rolling, the laugh, departing from the cheek, pressing up against teeth, then lips. We're late anyway. And next is an anonymous poem called Transsexual Agenda. I don't want to have enemies with the world. I think some of you imagine I crave it. Because you imagine you would crave it. Because you've never known it. I want to live in a world I want to live in. Some of you claim to want me. Some of you have hands like fire. My hands are grass, and my heart is fire. So I can never take what I want, only its particulate matter. When you reach for me to explain to me what I am what you destroy with your desire to know.
Beautiful. Yeah. Akene music, y'all. Give it up for Akene music.
You know, a lot of people talk about heaven. Some people say for heaven's sake. They say, what are you saying for heaven's sake? And some people say, this thing feels like heaven. But none of us have gone to heaven. I know all of us are here. But everybody talk about this heaven. And we are here on earth, but we always talk about heaven. So I also think about my own heaven. How can this heaven be? So I write a song when we get to heaven, if we're actually going to get to heaven. I play a new song. It's called Patient Wine. It's a song that I wrote about patience.
Our next open micer, which is the Speedy. So give it up, y'all.
I'm gonna share a poem that I wrote a few years ago now. It was something that I wrote for my partner before we were actually together, and I shared it on Trans Day of Visibility because as a trans, two-spirit, mixed indigenous person, I think it's extremely important that not just our bodies are visible, but every aspect of our existence in our life, that we feel free to live that and show that wherever we are, and that includes our love. And so this is dedicated to the love of my life, Rio Saúl Garcia. I get to spend 3 hours with myself in the mornings while my love lays resting. Some days we begin together. Some days we rise together. Some days we cook together. Some days we greet the sun together. Some days we bathe in that light and hate together, drinking in los rayos like honey and water after a long thirst, letting it kiss our skins like we do each other after too many hours between these bodies, with sweetness, passion, and appreciation. They will sing with me sometimes. I will dance with them always. A veces la madrugada will stir us up from our slumber, call us back from the dream world, so we can spend time in the in-between, to remind us that we are always transitioning, and there's beauty in that. There's beauty in us, the in-betweens, the leaves dancing in the rhythms of the wind, our life's journey, our art of existence as fluid beings, existing in between and outside of the binary, forever dancing this life together, our love, our shared life, a prayer in tobacco and sage, copal and cedar, water and fire, in song carried by wind to all directions. Our love, un baile de pura energía, paso a paso más enamorado. In those 3 hours, I drink morning water with them in my heart. In those 3 hours, I have prayed for them and our relations more than 1,000 times. In those 3 hours, I let the sunlight into our home. I greet all of our plants. I move my body the way it asks me to. I sing with the birds. I clothe myself. Sometimes. Sometimes I lay naked in our garden, allowing the plant relations to become familiar with my body, waiting for my love to plant seeds of kisses all over my skin, letting every one of them bloom. Most mornings I will use something from our garden to nourish us, and I will always leave an offering to say thank you. In those 3 hours I write. I write about love, I write about life, I write about how there is not a separation between the two. In those 3 hours I share breath with relative Yerba Buena. We have a beautiful conversation about how far we have come, and we laugh with tears in my eyes because this life is even more lovely than we imagined. We laugh with tears in my eyes because we know what it is to walk in beauty. When they rise, I drink morning water with them by my side. We walk in ceremony together.
Poets in hiding. Yeah, poets in hiding. Speaking of that, if anybody, last, this is, yeah, Juan?
I got one.
Oh, Juan? Come on up, Juan. Juan Sanchez.
Vida is my amazing kid who I wish I could take more credit for. Every turn, there's a new surprise, a new beauty that arises. It's like since they were a little guy, it was teaching me about life, and I keep learning every day. You know, they've lived in Berkeley, just graduated from UC Berkeley. I was lucky that they only got waitlisted at Harvard. Didn't really make it to Harvard, so we could be close. I'm selfish. I don't like that. So this song is called A Medias, Halfways, and it's a song that I wrote for my wife, for Vida's mom. Says, a medias no consigues que me acerque más a ti. Halfways you will manage to get me closer to you. halfway you only make me feel uneasy, either you love or you don't, from the treetop to the root, until your breath hurts and your chest doesn't fit in you anymore. It doesn't make sense. You love in order not to have any more to love. I look at you fleetingly, I think is the word, as if you're going to run away. I invite you to bathe in my germinal waters. We grow intertwined without any treaties or something else. Without absolute love, we'll cease to exist. So love me, don't measure your caresses. Listen. Lose yourself in the labyrinth of my dreams, perish with me, or ascend to the end. Only when we lose it all, we'll be able to meet. Amedias.
No consigues que me acerque más a ti. Medias tintas haces que me sienta en desazón. Se quiere o no se quiere. La copa la raíz hasta que el aliento duela. Pecho no te quepa, se quiere para no tener más nada que querer. De soslayo, como si fueras a huir, y toda un baño en mi agua germinal, crecemos enlazados, sin más cuestiones de tratados, dos plántulas que nacen maduras de ademanes, sin amor absoluto, nos dejan desistir. Ámame, no midas tus caricias, oye, piérdete en el laberinto de mis sueños, perece conmigo, asciende hasta el final, solo al perderlo todo nos podremos encontrar. Sin lindes ni vidas, nuestras almas se confundirán. No midas tus caricias, oye, piérdete en el laberinto de mis sueños, perece conmigo, asciende hasta el final, solo al perderlo todo nos podremos encontrar.
Yeah. Juan Sanchez, Vida Sanchez. I'm gonna read a couple poems from my my latest collection of poems, Mausoleum of Flowers. This first poem is called Footnotes for Kanye, and it's after a good friend of mine, Jasmine Mans, wrote a poem like 10 years ago. And this is an important context. She wrote the poem about 10 years ago. It's called Footnotes for Kanye, and it's a poem that is kind of out of frustration, but love. And she wrote the poem. She spent a lot of money, time, effort, like doing this really dope video for the poem, released it on YouTube. And like she got some, some views and some kind of feedback about it, which was cool, but not the amount that she kind of invested into the project. So somebody found the video on Facebook and then shared it with the caption, Kanye West's bitter ex-girlfriend writes a poem about. So anyways, and then the poem went viral and then like got billions of views. And so, millions of views rather. And so all that to say, like it worked out, but it was because like of a false kind of narrative. But check that poem out. It's called Footnotes for Kanye by Jasmine Mans. This is a poem that's after her poem of the same title. 1. The first time I heard Pray for Kanye was at a Black Lives Matter rally. Not that prayer is antithetical, but prayer next to anti-blackness is a flood, not a life raft. 2. If there isn't a grandmother's last breath interceding for even the most defiant among us. 3. There is something to be said about dying before death, how suffrage isn't always the antecedent, how some of us find glory in drowning. 4. Politics have taught me your desires, yea, no matter how deviant, don't outweigh your means, and for that I am afraid. 5. I asked my mama about a world without the woman who birthed her whole at Wauwatosa Hospital. She smiles and asks me to pass her the salt. 6. I'm afraid because any day without a mother's smile is no day at all. 7. Because if not God, my mama. 8. If not a life raft, a flood. 9. I'm afraid because you ain't talked to God in so long. 10. Yea, are you more brave than free, or more ignorant than a housefly missing the door? 11. Do you miss the door? 12. When I listen to No Church in the Wild, your voice is both the mob and the non-believer. 13. Are you still famous in your hood? 14. Because these kids still want to be you. They want to rap and make soul beats just like you, even though you just not you. 15. Tell me, now, where's the South Side? And then we do one more, and it's called Mama, and it's a poem that I wrote after having a conversation with my mama, and she revealed to me that she had never experienced like sustained happiness And I like to like differentiate between joy and happiness, and joy being like this unstained, unadulterated, like long, you know, kind of happiness. And she was like, yo, I've never experienced that. And so it was one, very like disheartening, and like, you know, it made me feel, you know, all kinds of ways. And it also made me think, like, what does it mean to have existed for like 6 decades and to never have experienced like a sustained happiness? And so I wrote this poem. It's called Mama. Mama knows what it's like to hold and not be held. Mama Nancy, who was not my mama, but is the oldest mama I have a name for. In this way, history is young, not because it is young, but because it goes only as far back as our stories do. And I'd like to think that memory counts for something. 3 women separate her from my mama, each of them a comma. Each of them should have been a semicolon, but we know genealogy isn't forgiving that way. I'm the son of all 4, and I am told by mama that her earliest recall of joy was being handed a quarter to buy a hamburger and still having 15 cents left over to buy penny candy. This girl, a woman, a mother, who has never been to the bottom of the earth, and not that any long-haul flight will buy happiness, but being awakened by the unswallowed sun over the Southern Ocean seems like a cheat code for sustained joy. I say sustained in the sense that the sunrise is the only infinite rhythm I've seen. This isn't a poem about joy, so much as it is a poem about dying without ever knowing it. But mama, you've always stricken me as someone who champions distance over depth, or faith over long suffering. In this way, I suppose joy isn't the antonym to pain, but the antibody. It is 1998, and you have just given me a pink food stamp, enough to buy a zebra cake, Kool-Aid jammers, and 3 packs of Now and Laters. The walk to the corner store, my faith. The slow skip back home, small joy. Here, my perception of small is grand enough to get me through the immensity of summer. How my mother summoned enough jubilance to share with me its blood. It is 2018, and I think of my trip to South Africa as a metaphor for food stamps. My flight, my faith. The flight, my joy. What I don't deserve, not considered here. The miles between me and the earth, stretched faith, carrying me back home. I search out my window for land, but find nothing green, just blue. Plenty blue to feel small enough to remember my small mama with outstretched hands, waiting for a quarter, for joy, a girl, a woman. Dear mama, your water will come, and the sun will brass knuckle its way out of the ocean with enough triumph to make you feel golden. The ocean is the only constant here. It delivers us all. I'd imagine it'll deliver you too. If not you, your body. If not your joy, your pain. It will carry it in its mouth back to shore like a flood. So we're almost at the point where we bring up our feature for the night, but before we do so, I just want to bring up 2 folks, Spiri and Sam, who are going to come share some words about the wonderful, important, necessary work they do with the Epicenter. So if y'all two can come up.
Hi y'all. How are you doing? This is amazing. Oh my God, my heart is so full. My name is Sam Gomez. My pronouns are they, them, theirs, and I'm with the Epicenter of Monterey, a drop-in resource center for youth in Monterey County.
And my name is Spiri, also they, them pronouns, and I am a youth advocate with the Epicenter of Monterey in Salinas.
Yeah, so shout out to Palenke Arts for hosting. This is so beautiful. So honored to be here. So we're over in Salinas. We're actually moving from 20 Maple Street to 737 South Main Street in Salinas. Very excited. We have drop-in center services, we have clothing, we have groceries, we have different services as well for youth who need resources in the community. And this can be around education, employment, health and wellness, and housing. We do connections to resources for mental health services, for getting a job, if you need any kind of experience, community service hours, or if you want a paid internship with us too, we offer that as well. And so some of our programming, one of them, our Gentes, our LGBTQ plus program for youth, which is, the program that is collaborating with the Palenke Arts. So very honored to be here. Hit us up, we're over there at that table if you want some more information, if you want some swag, if you want a chance to win a pride hat, go ahead and sign up for our newsletter. But thank you so much for, sharing space. This is beautiful, y'all. I love being in community. And happy Pride Month.
What we've been waiting for.
Yep.
Porsche Veu, aka the Poetic Activist, is a bold and fiery artist, speaker, facilitator, and activist from Oakland, California. With a passion for God, DEI, social justice, and mental health, especially among women in the Black community, Porsche aims to bridge the gap between faith and social justice, create brave atmospheres for uncomfortable conversations, and inspire others to find healing and freedom in telling their own stories, using motivational speaking, workshop facilitation, poetry, and music. If y'all could give all of your love, energy, to Porsche, the Poetic Activist.
Drop me in the deepest, darkest part of the ocean, where even evil hides in fear and prey. The waters wash away my existence. You could never drown my spirit. Wrap my neck in the strongest rope your hands could find, pulling and suffocating, until tears race down my face and wait for my fiery soul to separate from my body. You could never control my voice. Strip me of everything every human being deserves: love, respect, understanding. Leave me standing naked with nothing but laughter seeping into my ears. You could never take away my dignity. I am here. We are here to stay. How we doing tonight, y'all? Hi, challenge. Thank you so much, Daniel, for that beautiful introduction. Again, my name is Porsche Veu, aka the Poetic Activist. I'm really excited to be here. So this is, I think, my second in-person event since 2020.
Whoa!
So, yeah, it's still like, I'm still getting used to it because everything's been virtual and stuff. So it's like, oh, there's real people in here. Which I miss because, especially as poets, we thrive off the crowd, we thrive off the energy. So it's like, being in the screen, it's like, type in the chat if you're like, this is not translating. So I'm very happy to see you all live and in color. So I have some poems. If you guys want to hear some poems. So quick background about me. When I first started doing poetry, first time I ever did a poem was 2015. I look back at that video, I'm like, oh, cringe, what was that? But we have to start somewhere, right? But I was very social justice focused. No problem with that. I'm very bold. I'm very, I think someone said earlier that poets aren't necessarily too extroverted. I am a very extroverted poet. Sometimes people are like, whoa, like we're not expecting that. Yeah, I'm just big and bold and loud. When I first started doing poetry, it was very social justice focused, which was great, but I never talked about my personal life. So I'm like, I don't want people in my business. I don't know. And I rock hard with Jesus. That's my homie. And so we're having a conversation. It was like, you gotta start being transparent. You gotta start talking about your life. Like there's people out there who need to hear your story. And when I started doing that, I found that there's so many people out there who will go through the same thing and no one's saying anything because of fear of what somebody else is gonna think. What are we gonna think about that person and things like that. So I got over that fear and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna tell my story. I'm gonna start sharing my life. So this first piece I wanna share with y'all is called I Am Woman. And it comes from so many things, so many spaces that I've been in, especially being a Black woman, where people, either as a woman, they expect you to be quiet, right? They expect you to kind of, be in your place. And then being a Black woman, they expect you to be overly loud and aggressive and, you're just doing a lot. And so for years, I was very quiet. Even, you know, I've been doing poetry for years before I even did my first spoken word. But out of fear of what people would think, oh, she's just another loud Black woman. So I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna keep my thoughts and my poems to myself. Finally, I was like, no, the world needs to hear what I have to say. So here I am. This piece is called I Am Woman. This is dedicated to any and every man who's ever tried to tell a woman what to do and how to be. Yeah. Stay in your place. Stay in your lane. And the minute you decide to drive outside of the line society has painted for you, the questions begin to arise. Who do you think you are? You are a woman, weak-minded, blinded by the color pink and lilies and binge sessions of the Real Housewives. What do you know about anything of substance? Shh. Don't speak. You are to be silent, quiet. Your thoughts are inferior to the opposite gender. Your pretty little hips couldn't possibly sway to the beat of your own drum. Just conform to the being they think you should be. Take their gun and commit identity suicide by pulling the trigger and allow their bullets of confinement to end you. Red rum, scream silently as they pretend to know the answer to one of life's many conundrums. What is the purpose of a woman? What is your function? See, they don't believe in the magic of a junction, the place where beauty and intelligence collide. They would rather you reside inside, standing over a hot stove, making sure supper is ready by the time he comes home. Stay in your place. Stay in your lane. Can you hear it? It's the sound of discouragement, the sound of disdain wailing in your ears. It's the sound of fear, attempting to wrap you in its arms that you may stay locked in the box they stuffed you in, only to be let out when it's convenient for them when they need you. Because that's just it. They need you. No matter how many times they try to put you on the top shelf in the basement, no matter how hard they try to find a replacement, quite often they had to pull you out. Because even though they didn't want to admit it, no doubt you were their greatest weapon. See, you threatened the very essence of their existence. The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you think is different, and they try to confuse your strength and backbone for belligerence, but please, leave your assumptions at the door. A woman is not some poor little creature with pretty little features whose place is in the laundry room folding drawers or in the kitchen washing dishes, plates, spoons, forks, knives. Women were created to be mere Stepford wives. No, a woman's place is wherever her stilettos or ballerina flats or tennis shoes or boots choose to walk. What is the purpose of a woman? You tried it. That's like asking what the purpose of water is. Try to live without it and you will find in due time you are empty without her presence. See, I don't understand it. It's outlandish how this society can take such beautiful creatures for granted, but that just means we are a million times more valuable. No matter how many people like him make statements like grab him by the genitals. I mean, call us Miss Jackson if you're really nasty, because you would never tear us down. Amazing women, how sweet the sound of our hammers breaking through barriers. Women, we are carriers of grace and strength, traits that you will never take, never imitate. Make no mistake, we are sensitive beings. But you can still catch these hands, raising to the sky in protest, interlocking with our sisters as we stand for the oppressed, professing our love for who we are with no regrets. Woman, worthy of mass appreciation from all nations. What is the purpose of a woman? To simply inspire. I am woman. Thank you. Tell people off, y'all. That's me. I'm getting better. Sometimes, you know, you just have to be quiet and not say something all the time. But, you know, my husband knows. He's always like, all right, go ahead, baby. See what you gotta say. So these next two pieces talk a little heavy. But I'm so glad I'm in a place where, one, I'm so comfortable talking about the things that I've been through, and there's no shame in that, right? And then number two, I love the fact that in 2022, we're talking about mental health so much more than we ever have in life. Yeah. Especially being a Black woman, you know, I felt like we don't talk about that. We're not allowed to. That's not things that we discuss in our community, in our families, in our homes. And so one of my favorite pieces I'm going to share right after this one, but I want to share this first to put perspective. So again, I grew up in church. I'm a church girl. And people have a lot of people have a lot of expectations in the church, right? And so there's this thought that, you know, if you come to church, you're happy all the time. You're smiling, you're enjoying life. And that's just not the case. And there's this idea where, you know, anxiety and mental health issues and depression and things like that, that doesn't exist. That's not, all you gotta do is slap some Jesus on it and you're good. No, that doesn't work. I heavily believe in prayer and things like that, but I also believe in being practical. We have to talk about these things. So I wrote this piece dedicated to a few people in the church who kind of sometimes they ignore things because they think it's just one way. And so this piece is called Sometimes Christians Get Depressed Too. They didn't like this piece, y'all, but I don't care. Last Sunday, I stood in the front, reached to heaven with still arms. I made my feet dance, cried out in 3 million tongues, and held hands with the Holy Spirit himself. I sat down in the first row, turned to my neighbor every time pastor said so, and I was so tuned in and focused on church, pretended not to notice Lucifer's spirit lurk in my direction, had to whisper Isaiah 41:10 a couple times for protection. I used my phone to take notes. I took good notes too on pastor's word. Word was so good I couldn't sit still. I stood up, clapped, yelled, and come on until my voice grew tired. I felt my spirit rewire into the system its maker intended. Service ends. I even went and hugged the one who offended me, and that's big for me. I laughed with my friends, made Sunday lunch plans, and then I drove home, speeding, to return to my cage of broken. Sat alone and had Psalms 42:3 for dinner, a bowl of salty tears from eyes that angrily cried, wondered why, wondered if they was blind because they couldn't see the God my brain told them to see. Couldn't understand the concept of the evidence of things unseen. I got up from the couch and had dessert in my room, a spoonful of the sweetest agony. I put on my Jeremiah robe and rocked myself to Lamentations. I stayed up long past my bedtime, dread time, the time I dread going to sleep, where my dreams would come for me when I ain't send for them. I pretend for them. When they ask me how I'm doing, I look in my purse and pull out my blessed and highly favored, my won't he do it, I don't know why they don't serve him. Are they still watching? Soon as they stop watching the people I stay trying to please, I put all my masks back into my bag, knowing good and well I don't feel favored. Knowing good and well I feel like I'm in labor, birthing a fetus with close resemblance to loneliness, indifference, rejection, blank. You ever had an invisible gun pointed at your temple, hoped it wasn't filled with blanks? You ever draw a blank, not able to remember all the good things he's already done for you? Me too. Deep down, I love me some Jesus. This I know, he loved me too. But all lying aside, sometimes Christians get depressed too. I know this is supposed to be a joyous occasion, but you know, I gotta go deep with y'all. So quick question, how many of us in here are pet owners? Who owns a pet in here? What do you got? What do you got?
A 2-year-old Yorkie.
Nice, what you got? What you got?
2 German Shepherds.
2 German Shepherds, okay. Okay. What else we got? Anybody else pet owners?
Little orange cat.
Okay, little orange cat. What you got?
3 cats, 5 dogs, and 6 chickens.
Clap it up.
I have a problem.
No, you have a collection.
She's a foster mom.
Wow.
She fosters kittens.
That's awesome. I have a dream one day that we just have a giant house so I can have like my own mini zoo.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
So I brought that up to say, so this next piece is dedicated to my little dog. His name is Caesar, and I've had him, I got him when he was 9 months old. He just turned 9 2 months ago. And so I performed this poem so many times, and this was the very first poem. Remember, I was telling you guys, I was so social justice focused, and then finally I started stepping into, just sharing my life and everything. This was the very first vulnerable poem I ever shared on the stage, talking about depression, in which no one in my life knew what I was going through. I had my mom, my mentors, my friends come to this event, it was a mental health event, and they just sat there like, what? We never knew this. And so I was like, sorry, Mom, I'm still here though. And so the reason why I titled this poem Caesar is because the time in which I wrote this and when I was going through some things, I was scared to be alone in my house. I was just terrified. So I was like, I want a dog, I want to get a dog. Well, my landlord was like, you can get a dog, but it has to be a small dog. I'm like, I hate small dogs. I want a big fluffy dog. So I was like, all right, let me get a little dog. And I found this dog. And he was just so feisty, just this feisty little ball of energy. And just like, you would think he was a big dog the way he acted, but you look at him and he's like, I could literally kick you over. So I thought about it and I thought, I feel like this dog. I feel related to this dog. I feel like there's this big energy I have as such a small little person. And so I named this poem Caesar, a poem about suicide. And so I hope that it resonates with you, and if, again, snaps and claps, if you feel anything I'm saying, shout. I'm from church, so what I'm saying, we make a lot of noise up in there, so that's that piece, y'all. People tell me my dog is out of control. A cute ball of fur whose spirit does not match his outward appearance, the epitome of don't judge a book by its cover. If you approach him too fast, he may lunge. They say I let him run the house. I say I know. I remember on his first birthday, someone asked me to hang out. I said no. I had a party to plan. They asked, whose? I said Caesar's. They laughed. I remember all the comments I got on the picture of his cupcake that I made from scratch, frosted with peanut butter and love, garnished with a C made out of carrots and my soul. Did you really light a candle for a dog, they said. Do you really let him sleep in your bed, they said. That's that white people stuff. They didn't know that this little mixed breed constantly barking at everything walking, refusing to put on his collar when it's time to go, growling like a savage when I tell him, give me the chicken bone he got out of the garbage, saved me from myself. They don't know that I would sit on the couch, staring at cream walls I thought were smiling evilly, sitting in empty corners full of eyes, rolled into a ball, lying on a bed of thorns, singing to myself tunes of, would it be so bad if you were no longer here? They don't know that I would go to work and whisper to my feet, today is the day you will finally accidentally walk in front of the bus. They don't know that sometimes when I was with them, I wasn't really with them. It was my black body playing dress up. Dressing up as normal. Dressing up as life is a box of chocolates. Dressing up as strong. Because being black means you don't have emotional heart attacks. Brown skin means depression does not exist. We don't go to therapists to suck it up and get over it. They don't know that he would come in my house and crouch, arms out, smelling like the brimstone from which he comes, saying, just come to Papa, and I'd contemplate his offer, standing over a drawer of sharp blades, humming to myself, sweet dreams must be made of this. They don't know that I so believe that the God I believe in further proved himself when he sent me that lady who no longer wanted the cute ball of fur, whose spirit did not match his outward appearance. They don't know that I too was a false ball of strength, whose spirit did not match her outward appearance. When an animal has a way of making you feel like life is worth living more than any human being can, you realize how stupid you can look for baking him a cupcake with frosting and love and carrots and soul and a candle, and care not what they may think. You realize that your words become a shield, defending yourself against their swords dipped in, it's just a dog flames, but I tell you, a cupcake and my covers covered in Chihuahua Terrier follicles is the least I can offer him for helping me stay.
Come on. Yes.
I totally forgot. So Daniel asked me, he's like, did you bring your books? Did you bring your books? I didn't bring my books, y'all. So unfortunately, because of the pandemic, they don't do expedited shipping and things. So I wasn't able to get my books in time. But when I do, hopefully you guys follow me on Instagram at The Poetic Activist. You can also check out my website, thepoeticactivist.com. This is my first poetry book, Two Kinds of Fire. It's 3 years old. I'm actually working on more books, so look out for that. But I'm very proud of that. It's my first body of work. So I'm gonna go ahead and go into my next few poems. So I turned 30 this year, right? And the old me was like, oh my God, I'm about to be 30, life is ending, like what's going on? And And as I started to, like, literally started in 2020, I was like, 30 is gonna be my beginning. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have this idea where it's like 30, it's just like, oh, it's just a dreadful year, get ready to be old. And it's like, where did that come from? So I wrote this piece literally last year, because I was like, you know what? I had my life planned out, y'all, when I was like 15. I was like, I know everything I'm doing. But before I turn 30, I'm gonna be married. I'm gonna have all my kids. No, thank you. We're not having kids yet, so I was just like, you have this idea of all the things that you're supposed to do by 30. So I was like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of the society trying to tell me what to do. So this piece is called 30. 30. The age this world has beat into our brains, serving as the median between success and failure. Have no shame spinning in the desert of love, thirsty for marriage before 3-0 hits. Spread legs to birth career and kids before you get over the hill. Spend tens of thousands of green on a degree you ain't even finna use just because they said to. Then pick all the pieces of your discouragement and depression up off the floor. Swallow them whole. Don't forget to make a chore out of trying to beautify your credit score. Where did this come from? The idea that your late 20s defines you. Let me remind you that time don't always mean much. Stop it. Half of us are still soul searching, still learning how to walk on our own without holding mama or daddy's hand. See, I've been paying rent since 19. Independent woman who hates the idea of needing help. I'm too old to not have it all figured out, so they say. Plagued with echoing thoughts of everything I should have done by now, everything I should have overcome by now. Somehow, I managed to make big moves, then still try to prove my worth, like last week's reached goal is old. Never bask in my accomplishments, too eager to get to the next, and yet, satisfaction still be myth. Perfection be a dementous kiss, sucking the life out of my joy, ridiculous, a spell. Cast onto our feet to keep us from moving forward. It's amazing how we be wizards at swimming in discontentment, constantly believing that we gotta hurry up and achieve something. Point blank, if you still alive right now, you done achieved something. Okay. The age this world has beat into our brains, serving as the measurement by which you better have something to show for yourself. If you ain't married by then, something wrong with you. If you ain't in your career, you slacking. If you ain't big ballin', you lacking, please. If I never lifted another finger to prove my value, I would still be enough. Yes. And everything that I've done up until this point in my life deserves its very own plaque on the wall. 30, the age I finally decided to say, screw your standards. Screw society, right? So yeah, being 30 has been so much fun. So we're actually in 2 weeks, I think in 2 weeks, my husband and I are gonna be celebrating our first anniversary. Shout out to you. So yeah, it's just so much newness in life. I'm really excited. And so next week, Juneteenth is next Sunday, and I have so many events, y'all. I got so many events. But I wanted to share real quick a story. I wasn't gonna share that first. Well, I'm gonna share it now. So I do this thing called Juneteenth and Beyond. It's a webinar, right? And I've been doing it with a lot of different corporate companies, some smaller companies. And basically, I weave poetry and things throughout presentations. Talks about the history of Juneteenth, the importance of it, why do we celebrate it. And the reason why I titled it Juneteenth and Beyond is because we have to get away from celebrating people one day during the year, or 1 month. It's like, okay, let's talk about Black history throughout. Let's fire Black people throughout the year. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I titled it that. And so one of the companies that I was working with from the jump, it was just so stressful because, as you can see, I'm a very bold, loud person, right? And so I'm very set in my ways, and they were trying to ask me to do things that did not align with my values. And so we had about 2 meetings, and the last meeting we were talking about why they wanted to remove some of the slides that was included in my presentation. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do that. So we kind of had this back and forth, and they finally said, you know what, the celebration that we're looking for, like Juneteenth is supposed to be celebratory. We want to talk about the positive things. So we want to keep it, you know what I'm saying, very focused. And I said, well, what is Juneteenth celebrating? It's celebrating the freedom of what? Mm-hmm. Slavery. Yeah. So we can't talk about Juneteenth without talking about slavery. And they didn't want to do that. They wanted to edit some of my poems. They wanted me to take some things out. And so I said, I'm going to have to not do this. I don't need money that bad. And so I wanted to share that because this poem is called Resilience. And I wrote this poem like 2 years ago, but it speaks to even just being in a space where even trying to celebrate, when people say, oh, let's celebrate, let's acknowledge, there's still trouble there. We still have opposition and trying to celebrate our own history. And so this piece is called Resilience. And I feel like that's just one of the number one things that I find Black people have, our characters, just being able to really just fight back in all madness. So here we go. Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze. Brisk winds blow hard to break our branches, remain buoyant with every breath we did. Pricked fingers on field clouds from sunrise to plate scraping, waiting to exhale. Self-supplied our need of hope. Ate dreams for supper we did. Would have needed more than 2 hands to count how many souls were sent to heaven on hands and knees, buckling out of fear will they catch us running. Blending in with the shadows, scarred feet leaving trails of sadness behind. We left behind a tale as old as time, a people suppressed and oppressed into earth, but out of the ashes they rise. Can you imagine the shock? Imagine the countenance on their faces when our secret was revealed, that what didn't kill us made us straighten our backs, lift chins to the sky and walk on. What didn't kill us made us shine brighter in the black hole they thought we'd drown in. Spinach did for Popeye what hate did for we, turned the sourest lemons into gold, clothed ourselves in cloaks of resilience, fought in the name of resistance. You best put some respect on our names. Harriet Tubman was a G. Frederick Douglass was the homie, and you could catch Nat Turner outside and see that every hurdle placed in our path, deliberately created to erase us, was soared over by Black feet that couldn't be stopped. Virginia couldn't stop us. Jim Crow couldn't stop us. Montgomery couldn't stop us. Selma couldn't stop us. Cowards in white sheets and hoods couldn't stop us. And the system still in place to try to take our faith can't stop us neither. We keep on moving. Keep on proving the point that skin frosted with extra melanin and soul will never bow in the face of opposition, but the opposite. Opposing every obstacle and making debacles out of every plan they make to take our strength. Keep on scheming. No weapon formed against us will ever prosper. Mountains meant to stop us gonna keep getting conquered. We've taken the little the world had to offer and did what we do best. Swam against the strongest of tides, ran against the heaviest of winds, a people stronger than the nooses they threw us in, a people bigger than the mountains they pushed in our way, a people whose character is the epitome of we fall down but get back up, fighting our way to victory. And it's exhausting, draining to think that since 1619 we haven't truly been free. We tired, but we keep on walking, keep pressing, keep persevering, keep dragging our bodies till we reach that true finish line of freedom.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, y'all, so we're at the home stretch. Everybody say, "Aw." I know you want to hear me talk for 1 more hour, but like, you know, we gotta go eat dinner, y'all. We hungry. So for my final piece, this was not planned, but when I walked in here, first of all, I saw this beautiful piano. My first ever, when it comes to art, the very first thing I ever did was play piano. My mom taught me. And then I went on to learn violin, and then I just forgot about my instruments. So I really want to pick them back up. But when I walked in here, somebody was playing this piano so beautifully. And I said, would you do me a favor? Would you come play piano while I read my last poem? So I'd like to invite my musician up. Wonderful, Vida. So, quick context. So, I've been doing poetry, spoken word now for 7 years. And during the start of the pandemic, it was so it was stressful for all of us, right? But even personally, I lost my great grandma that year. One of my brothers was having mental health issues, and then I actually forgot to share when I was doing my poem about Caesar. He had a seizure for the very first time in August of 2020. We had no idea where it came from, and ever since then, he's been diagnosed as an epileptic. It's been one of the most stressful things of my entire life, especially even earlier this year. There was one day we had like 25 seizures, and we thought, oh, he might not make it, so it was very rough. And so I say all that to say, I put poetry down. Like, one, with all the events not happening and just trying to deal with my own personal life, I was just like, I didn't feel the connection to poetry. So I wrote this piece called Dear Poetry. It's a letter to poetry. And I started thinking about, one, I don't want to just be known as a poet. Like, there's so many other things that I do in life. And I was feeling like poetry was almost in a sense holding me back, which is interesting because it's like, it's the very thing that put me on the map as an artist, but it's almost like there's kind of this tug of war between my passion and love for it and not wanting it to keep me in a box. So this last piece is called Dear Poetry. And so I'm gonna let you play whatever you play, and I'm just gonna kind of come in. It's the beauty of art, y'all. About the last time we spent together, abandoned. I think that's what I hear you say you feel. Like you were first priority turned second. Like being picked second to last on the kickball team, I miss you. And I know it doesn't seem like it, but would you believe me if I told you I've been tired? Too tired to have my brain tell my fingers to pick up a pen and write you. So drained that dancing with you would seem more a chore, forced, rather than desired. I'd be a liar if I said I always care about you. On the surface, sometimes I don't. Like phone with screen protector, I drop you and don't blink once, cause I know deep down, you'll still be there, put together. I'm sorry, fair it isn't. But honestly, honesty has started to take over me something fierce. Makes lying to myself feel like dirt on my tongue. I can't do it. I question what you mean to me sometimes, and then I feel guilty. Because you made me a big part of who I am. But then again, maybe that's the problem. Maybe I put too much weight on you. Confided in you more than the one who gave me you, shined and polished you, placed you on top shelf above all else, and did anything I could to keep you glistening. Like be jealous, be envious, compare myself, strive, turn you into only a means of income, forgetting the fun we've had together. Treated you bad like Jackson 5, but I hope you know who's still loving you. So much has fought for my attention and against my drive, my love. I am great with you, but please take no offense when I say I'm also great without you. Learning that your heartbeat is music to my ears, but it is not my sole giver of life. The world knows me because of you, and while I am so grateful for where you've brought me, I finally realize that you don't solely define me. And I'm sorry to myself and you for believing that for so long. Life, we can do it together. We just have to do it differently. Sincerely, the Poetic Activist. Actually, sincerely, Porsche. And she is enough. Thank you for having me, y'all. This was great. I'm gonna want to win when you bring me back. So I'll see y'all soon.
Keep it up. So also, Porsche mentioned you can cop that book, Two Kinds of Fire, thepoeticactivist.com. Thepoeticactivist.com. Please grab that and support, right? Follow on social media at The Poetic Activist. Cool, on all platforms? Cool. Follow, purchase the book, support, because like she said, it's been tough, especially since, the moving parts of the pandemic and whatnot. So if you can support, please do. Thank y'all for coming through. Thanks to the open micers for sharing your truth, your words. Give it up for yourselves. course, this event wouldn't be possible without Juan Sanchez, Executive Director of Poetic Arts. My fellow board member for President Mason. And big shout out in the back. Please stop by, find out more about Epicenter. Doing good work. This is the last event for Palenke Arts this season.
Yeah. We're
Do you wanna?
we're attending one more thing, but that we're not putting it on. We're getting recognized at a gala next Saturday.
That's right. Juan is a champion of the arts. So, he's been elected
We all are. Champions is like, it comes from the old fighting places where the Romans, fought. It's like, I don't think that. But I guess we're all in the struggle together.
So, if
You're all champions.
If you want to get plugged in though to more Palenke Arts stuff, you can check out palenkearts.org. It's org. You get plugged into events, social media. Stuff will be coming because that's what Palenke Arts does, put on for the community. So get plugged in. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.